Lewis in the Black Horse Pub. Now, I'm Mark maybe hasn't shown up this morning. It could be that he got delayed in London, because he's a very faithful correspondent. He doesn't let us down. But it's 10 minutes or so before Melissa comes on board. So I just wanted to take a few minutes to tell you about this lovely pub, which is host to us. And it's the landlord, Declan, is, we call him our chief of staff. He looks after us in a most fastidious way. He's absolutely superb. And one of the things that he's very proud of is the food in this pub. And the food is cracker. It is terrific. And particularly Sunday lunch. It's very rare that I'm not here for Sunday lunch. I wasn't last Sunday because I was here Saturday. And on Saturday, I had the shepherd's pie, and it's still on special. So if you like shepherd's pie, this is the place to come down to and enjoy one. But the Sunday lunch is terrific. And the whole ambience of this pub it's a pub. It is a lovely pub. You feel comfortable here. It's got a good pint. All in all, you can't go wrong by coming to the Black Horse. But Declan runs quizzes from time to time. Can you hear me, Declan? No, he's disappeared. Because he's got a quiz coming up at the beginning of February. And the Sunday lunch is going to be served from, from 12 until 5. That's right. And then at 5, there will be the normal menu because the quiz is going to be underway. Can you hear me, Declan? No, he's just out of earshot for the moment, because I'm going to get him to give me the details of the quiz, and so you can put it in your diaries and come along. The last quiz was there were only 2 chairs left. The pub was packed. It's good fun, good food, good absolutely everything. And so I want to urge you to put it in your diary and come along. And have a good time, but also good food. There we are. I'm back. The over the years, because I've been a world traveller, I've got out of the habit of drinking bitter. So I am not an arbiter of it. But when it comes to having a range of drinks, so that there's every whim is satisfied, then certainly this pub is this pub is spot on, as they say, spot on. You can get a whole range of yes ales, as well as it's a Green King pub, and you can get a spot of Harvey's for those people who are aficionados. So all in all, a great pub. Declan,
Yeah,
when is the quiz?
the quiz is the 11th of February.
11th of February, and if I've got it right, you can you get Sunday lunch up until 5 o'clock.
Yeah, till 5 o'clock. Then the normal menu from 5.
You what?
Then the normal menu from 5 o'clock.
Yes, that's right. Normal menu from 5 o'clock, but you can still get this fabulous pub lunch, and it really is a fabulous lunch. Believe me. Well, I've been eating it for some months now, and look at me. Hey? So do come along. Do come along to the quiz. You don't have to eat, but you can combine it and get a decent meal, as well as have a bit of fun and a decent pint. So the pub quiz, the 11th, you say?
11th of February, 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock, 11th of February. Make sure, and that's when it starts. So make sure you're here in plenty of time. You can sit and have a nice drink while you're waiting for the starting gun to fire. And it's a good night. It's a good night. No question about it. So put it in your diary. It is the 11th. The 11th of February. How often are you going to run quizzes throughout the year?
Second Sunday of every month.
Second Sunday of every month. There you are. You can plan well ahead. Well ahead. At 8 o'clock, second Sunday of every month, the quiz. And if you've got any sense at all, what you'll do is you'll come for lunch and then stay. Oh, I shouldn't encourage that sort of drinking, they say. Never mind. Never mind. Generally speaking, the Black Horse is one of those rare finds, a pub that caters to your every need. It's an old-fashioned pub, a good old-fashioned pub. And I'm going to say is a good landlord, and I'm not going to say old-fashioned because he's not very old. Spry youngster is Declan, and he runs a damn good pub, believe me. So this is the place to be, not least of which is you might just catch a little glimpse of us guys beavering away, trying to keep you amused and happy. And who knows? We seem to be keeping people in the United States happy, so not a bad thing to do. Not a bad thing to do. The one of the things that is, and I'm going to plug my bit now. This town you can't walk out onto the pavement without tripping over history. And we tried to reflect that. It's 2 or 3 years old now, but there is a documentary which you can find on YouTube. You'll find it on other social media. You find it on the web. And it's called The Bloody Past of a Tiny Town. And in 8 episodes, 8 half-hour episodes, it tells you the background to some of the key moments in history that make this town so famous, and which actually has not only made English democracy the leader in the world, but Lewis English democracy, because it was here that the Battle of Lewis was fought, with Simon de Montfort leading the barons and taking on the king, who was being a bit naughty and spending their money on having lots of parties. And the Battle of Lewis, which de Montfort won, saw the first parliament ever to sit in Westminster result from that battle. And one of the people who has been here many times, and who can't stay away, is Melissa Conti.
Good morning, Keith. How are
Good
you?
Melissa.
Good morning.
I had hoped to have Mark maybe, but he went to London on Wednesday, and I'm not sure that he's managed to get himself out of the pubs in London, because there's been no sign of him for 2 or 3 days.
Oh,
And just a piece of because you quite rightly said we last week's program was a magic program, and it should have been given the widest possible audience. And I'm happy to say we are back on Facebook, on YouTube.
wonderful. Hello,
Yeah.
YouTube. Hello.
They've forgiven us temporarily until we actually put our foot in it again. But
Well, I can't imagine what you did, Keith.
I can.
Oh, I can probably imagine some things as well. Yes, they're a little sensitive about those kinds of things, you know.
Yes, but to be quite honest with you, I find it very difficult for a major information organization like YouTube to spout as it does about its belief in freedom of speech and democracy and so on and so forth. And the moment that it's offended, cuts you off.
You know what it is? It's a private company, and it's an American company. And we in America are very sensitive about things of that nature, where perhaps in Britain you're not.
Uh,
Does that make sense?
yes, it does.
We're
It
very
does.
we're very puritanical when it comes to things of that nature.
Yes.
Even though we're not. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I mean, actually, it isn't YouTube, but we post stuff on a thing called Next Door, which is quite good, really, because it focuses. I mean, I think it's global, but it focuses on areas. And I actually put up the other day and watch our documentary, The Bloody Past of a Tiny Town, and immediately flagged up, you may be offending our community guidelines by using the word bloody. So,
Yeah, I don't think it's the word bloody so much as perhaps the female visions that you were putting up. That might have been what it was.
and the female.
Yeah, the female anatomy you were mentioning, something
Oh,
along those lines. Yeah, it could very well be that.
yes. Do you know that the funny thing is that our latest recruit, who's a delightful chap, John Prideaux, who is an artificial intelligence expert, um, I sent him a I think it was just a picture of me actually, because he wants to try and see what he can make of avatars and that sort of thing by using my picture. And we got a warning from Facebook saying you have uh, offended our guidelines because of nudity. And I went on to John straight away and said, "Have I sent you something nude?" He said, "No, I haven't. I looked on us. I can't see it now, unless it's a scam. All I can say is that you've got a logarithm that thinks that a blank screen is naked."
Well, I suppose that, you know, with anyone's imagination, sure. Um, yeah. There were some times when you were naked in the wet when you were doing the weather forecast, remember?
Yes, yes, I do.
Yes.
Yes.
So there you go. Yes. I guess I guess male nipples are now on that list. That forbidden list.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, as there was one other that I did where I disappeared through a door with my buttocks showing. And,
Oh, that'll do it.
oh yes,
Yeah. So it's
yeah,
either the female breasts or the male buttocks are just
yes.
forbidden. We don't do things like that in America. We don't expose our buttocks.
Yeah. I love the way you say
Unless
buttocks.
unless you're a celebrity, then you can expose anything you want.
Yes, there is that wonderful scene in Forrest Gump where they use a picture of JFK uh,
Yeah.
talking to Forrest Gump, who insists upon showing him the bullet hole that he got
In his
through his
bottom.
bum.
I wonder if they covered that up, you know,
I
with a
wonder.
little black triangle.
Well,
Yeah.
indeed, we did have a marvelous time last week, and this morning the two B's have been on, and they come up with the most incredible things to talk about, which turn into very interesting topics. And they were talking about the games indoors that you like to play in your younger years. And it's amazing how many we actually got onto Mahjong and games that I'd never heard of.
Gosh, what games did I play? I was a tomboy. And my father, you know, I was raised by a man, actually a Marine acting captain and drill sergeant. My mother had passed when I was very young. And
Right.
so I was raised by a man. So I used to play with cars and yeah, I used to play with cars a lot, and I'd have car collections. And then my father would give me Barbie to, I guess, feminize me a little bit, and I used to tear her head off and throw it. Um, you know, I'd always say to my father, I said, "Women don't look like this. We don't have feet like that. We don't walk around on our toes, and nobody looks like that, Dad."
You had to steer him, did you?
Yeah, it was those unrealistic expectations of the female physique. And then later to find out, what was it? The doll was modeled after a German prostitute, something along those lines. I was like, oh God, I said the wrong thing. Oh, I'm sorry. Gonna get thrown off of YouTube again.
Oh gosh, I think we only get 27 strikes and then we're out.
Oh, okay, okay, all right. So we're on number two. Okay, I don't know if we're gonna outlast. I don't know.
So, what's been going on in your world this past week?
I think the big story over here is the weather. Certainly, um, you know, these big, I don't know, maybe it's thanks to Canada, but we're getting these big, huge swaths of very frigid, like you're talking Celsius -11 Celsius. Very, very cold, to the point where when I went out to get my car, literally it was iced over. I couldn't use it. I had to bring out hot water, and you can't put it on glass because then you'll crack it. And it was just crazy. and then slip sliding everywhere because of the black ice. So yeah, it's been very, very cold. Although honestly, I guess you just have to dress up warmly and go out and have fun.
Yes.
That's how I feel about it.
Well, strangely enough, it's been like that here as well. Not quite as that cold, but this morning it started off at -7, which is unheard of here.
Ooh,
Yeah,
that is definitely cold there. I mean,
it is.
here we just deal with it, but it is cold for us. We don't like it.
Uh,
So,
no, I don't think anybody likes the cold. Snow is different. You sometimes welcome snow,
yeah,
but
we had
not.
a little bit. We had a little bit. We're supposed to have a
Yes.
little bit today. We'll see. It's so funny because you look on your phone and the forecast says flurries. You look outside, there's no flurries. There's no flurries. The only flurries are on my phone. Yeah.
Incidentally, we have a fairly, I think she's in Memphis, if I'm not mistaken, but a viewer who actually sends little messages
Oh,
while we're on the air, which is rather nice.
oh,
Although
nice.
she seems to be involved in a trial and not very happy with the way that it's being handled. But she's also quite chatty, and she got into conversation with the boys this morning about
Oh,
the games that they play. Uh, so I have to confess is that just in this rather lethargic Friday is I'm aware of what one of my old colleagues in Kosovo was doing us. There's the lady in the States. We get friends of mine from Nigeria from time to time, and I suspect from a little bits and pieces because it's a sore topic at the moment with the Ukrainian war. But some of my old colleagues from Russia tune in as well. So we're achieving our objective of being international.
oh, good. Well, it's interesting about Russia. Putin finally, and I don't. It's not that he's always very, very calculating in what he has to say, but he finally used the word conquer, which is really what he wanted to do to begin with. It wasn't to denazify or save Ukraine. He's an imperialist. He just wants to go back to the former Soviet Union. And so he's trying to conquer the land. Okay, we get it. Like, we didn't know in the beginning, like, really?
Yeah.
Who's gullible to think that he wasn't trying to conquer
Okay.
land? Okay, really? Anyway, well, it's
Now, how
interesting
is the
because
cat?
the cat is, I'll just give you a little sneak of the cat. Let's see if you could see. Can we see the cat before I tip everything over and knock over my tea? Hang on just a moment. There he is. Baby.
Ah, right. Yes.
Hello. Hello. Hi, baby. He's so
Because
cute.
it was not well last week, as I recall.
Yeah, but he's much better now.
That's it. That's
You
good.
need to see with a cat. You need to he's older, but you need to play with him because they get a lot of energy built up in the cat because they're predators. So you have to play with them and have them run around and jump. And when they're older, they don't do as much of that. But yeah, I have to do that with him. And we just what it is when he's alone, gets very upset. He's
Oh
very
dear.
dependent on people.
Yeah.
Loves to be around people.
Yeah.
Even though he'll ignore you, but he just likes to have you
Yeah.
around.
Yes. You like to be there. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's when I lived in Vancouver, I had a Great Dane, and it was 3 inches taller at the shoulder than the average. So he was a big dog,
Wow.
and he was absolutely docile. Loved everybody.
Yeah.
The only time he ever got upset was if we didn't invite him to the cocktail parties.
Yeah, Great Danes are very sweet. They really, truly are. They're so funny. They're so large. I'm just, and I was at a party one time and I'm just sitting there and the Great Dane comes up and the Great Dane's like literally looking at me right in the eye. I'm like, hi, how you doing? And
Yes, they
the
are
best,
sweet.
the best is when they want to sit on your lap. I'm like, really?
I know they back up.
Yeah, like seriously? I'm gonna be crushed.
Now, how did Carnegie Hall go?
Oh, it was so lovely. Oh, that was so great. Handel's Messiah, the full Handel's Messiah, is a very long piece of music. Very long. Usually they perform parts of it because an audience can't handle it, certainly these days. But they did the whole thing. It was just really, if you're really into oratorio, you just you just meld into the music, and it's so soothing. It's like butter, it's so beautiful. And so that was really what it was like. And it was so nice to see Connor on stage,
Yes,
you
yes.
know.
Did he
So
enjoy it?
he did very much. He really just enjoyed it. Their next concert is Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. But
Ah,
that's gonna be, I think, performed at St. Bart's on Park Avenue, which is a beautiful church.
mhm.
So, so many exciting things that he's doing. So it's
Yes.
wonderful.
And his work at NHK, which for those people who don't know is the Japanese national broadcaster.
Yeah, he's going to be. I think his upcoming story is the trial in Guantanamo Bay. They're finally going to try one of the 9/11 accused terrorists, who's been, of course, been there for years. I think there are 30 of them, but I think they're going to quickly try them, and I believe they're going to close it down. They're going to close down the facility on Guantanamo Bay, Cuba.
Yeah,
So
it's pretty controversial
yeah,
facility, isn't it?
yeah, it has been definitely, and so. But what Connor was pointing out, which was interesting, is that the American public may take a fleeting interest in the trial, but people have forgotten about 9/11.
Yes,
They've
yes,
forgotten, which is
yeah,
why they're sitting there exalting bin Laden. Like, really? Um, but anyway, yeah, so that there may not be a really great interest in it as maybe perhaps it would have been 20 years ago.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so should be interesting trial.
I mean, it is a fact that the trauma stories of that sort uh, are quite fleeting in public's minds, and quite often, and because new generations come along within
Right,
that time phase, it's not real to them.
right,
They didn't live through it. Uh,
exactly,
and then
exactly.
because the older generation that did are beginning to die off or whatever. So it is, I suppose, it's up to us to some extent to remind people of it.
Yes.
Um, where are we with Mr. Trump?
Another day, another trial. Um, yeah, like I said, I got to be honest with you. So I'll go into the cafeteria at my job, and I'll sit there with my colleagues, and we'll laugh and joke. And you got the big screens, big TV screens broadcasting either, usually it's CNN or MSNBC or a business channel, but it's people don't even pay attention to it. We don't even pay attention to Trump. We know that he won big in the Iowa caucuses. He's vying for a big win in New Hampshire. Those just earlier caucuses and primaries are just an indication of where the country might head. So we have the primaries where the Republican Party, those in the Republican Party and registered as Republicans, will decide which candidate is going to run. It's going to be Trump. There's no question it's going to be Trump. He's the front runner. And then the question, of course, the big question is his VP. And I think he's probably going to choose that Indian gentleman, and that's at least what everybody's betting. Certainly, Nikki Haley is not in the running since they're fighting, and Ron DeSantis. I don't know what to say about Ron DeSantis. I don't know.
Yeah,
He's it's interesting. Connor and I talked about presidents and their height, especially in the age of television. And I think the reason why Ron DeSantis would be at such a disadvantage is because he's only 5'9", and Trump towers over him, and so would Biden. So, in the eyes of the public, a bigger man is going to be a more effective president. You know,
yes,
silly.
yeah,
It's silly,
yeah,
but that's the way it is.
yes.
Like
Oh
somebody
no,
like Rishi, for example, very short. He's
oh
very
yes,
short,
indeed,
but
yeah.
you don't vote for him, so So I don't think you could have won.
It's that's one of the things about our system is the only people that vote for Sunak are the people that are in his constituency.
Correct.
It might be what I don't know, 60 or 70,000 people.
Yeah.
That's all. One of the interesting things locally is that over the past 7 or 8 years, our electoral commission has been at work to try and even up for instance, because of the way our constituencies are developed, you've got one MP in this constituency who represents, say, 100,000 people, and in the next one, the same, just one MP represents 50,000 people. So they've tried to even up the number of people that an MP represents.
Right.
So it's very much the throwing into the air how that will all come down. So it's going to be quite exciting for us at the end of this year, a different type of election.
Oh yeah, sounds fascinating. I guess what was the big news today, this week in Parliament was a Commons speaker, the House of Commons speaker, telling Rishi to sit down and be quiet.
Well, actually, I have to confess is that with everything else that's going on, that has really escaped us in terms of
Really?
any significance. So, well done in telling us what's going on in our own backyard. Yesterday, Sunak warned the House of Lords, which is our second chamber, of course, is look, you either back the legislation or take the consequences because people will not stand for it. And I was talking this morning to, I forget, one of our correspondents, and said, it's easy to say the people won't stand for it, but the people don't give a fig 9 times.
But they won't stand for what?
Well, they won't stand for them interfering with the legislation.
What legislation?
Well, it's the Rwanda issue. I'm sorry, I didn't make that clear. We want to send the illegal immigrants, put them on 747s and send them to camps in Rwanda. The theory being that if we do that, is it will dissuade people from coming to this country. Right. And they won't come across the channel in boats, killing themselves in great quantities along the way, by the way. So the liberal elements with a little l find this dreadful that we should treat human beings this way. So as a consequence, the House of Lords it's the only liberal establishment with a big L in our political system. So they're likely to object to it. And Sunak is saying, hey, listen, people will not forgive you if you block this legislation and so on. And it's all a bunch of silly nonsense. People don't care.
No, I mean, it's interesting. They care when there are a lot of migrants coming into their neighborhoods. Then they care. Yeah. Then they start to care. Well, that's sort of what's happening here. So our migrants are a bit different in character than yours are, and ours are from South America, Latin America, and so it's more for us. I think it's more of a poverty issue and a lack of skills, lack of the language, rather than perhaps religion, for example, which might be more of an issue in your country. So with your migrants, I don't know what kind of migrants you have coming in, but mass migration, it can be a very difficult topic because what you're doing is you're jolting. There's a jolt to the societies where the mass migration is occurring. You're making drastic, immediate changes to a society. And it doesn't work out well to those who are in that society. And then the liberals, and I know that we want to be humane, all of a sudden they see masses of migrants coming in, and we don't have the money to take care of them. We don't have the space to take care of them. And then all of a sudden you see the liberals turning a little bit moderate, which is what's happening with our governor. He's starting to sound very much like a moderate, because we're having a surge in crime. They've allowed a lot of shoplifting to take place. So once you allow a little, like even petty theft to occur, it starts to snowball into more and more and more. And then you have the scenes in like California, for example, where you have cars driving into stores and people are coming in droves and stealing everything. It's we don't want to offend somebody by arresting them for stealing, right? But now we got some big, huge problems. So I think people are starting to, this is really affecting the quality of life for people who are here.
Yeah. Now, I find that very interesting because for years we used your zero tolerance way of dealing with crime as that's the way the Americans go and look. Zero tolerance has got zero crime. Zero tolerance is now old hat, is it?
Well, it has been for a few years now, because we don't want to. There's certain crimes where we just don't want to make a big deal out of it. But those small crimes really start to snowball in itself. And then you're a little more permissive and a little more permissive and a little more, to the point where it just becomes unbearable. And then it's out of control. Now you got a problem where you have to start policing and you have to start back with the zero tolerance. So there's a pendulum that goes back and forth.
Yes.
Then through life, certainly through life. So yeah, this is why, and the moderates, their voices have been drowned out as of late. We've got the extremes on either side, which is why it's so important to have that moderation and to really look at something and judge it. All right, we can't have store owners. We can't put a threshold of, $1,000 is the threshold of what you can steal. Are you serious? What?
Yes.
It's ridiculous, because it's going to just create more. We're going to raise the threshold. We're going to raise it and raise it and raise it. And all of a sudden, okay, you can steal $10,000 and then put a company out of business. Seriously? Come on, guys. And then when it starts to impact, so you have migrants coming here, and they're being housed in very wealthy areas. And now all of a sudden, we're like, whoa, no, we can't do that. Yeah, it's
the policies are like a ship.
yes.
You start turning that way, and to stop it is you can't do it instantly. You have to, yeah, indeed.
Well, I think your migrants are coming there for what reason? They're coming there for the promise of free housing, opportunity. They're coming here, therefore, because you have the free food and all this other stuff. And that's what happened with us, because New York is a sanctuary city. And then we realized that we don't have the budget for that. And the federal government is not going to supply us with any, because I don't know what's going on with Biden. He's just checked out, really. And so this is why Trump has a chance. This is why Trump has a very good chance of winning. He really does, whether you like him or not. He does, and it's because people are like, whoa, 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 whoa. We can't have thousands of migrants coming in on the streets, and we you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a difficult question. It's a difficult question, but I think the mass migration is the problem. And there are people who are going to go through the immigration system in a legal way, and it takes a long time and a lot of money. What about them? What about them?
Yeah.
You're going to allow people coming in with phony claims for asylum, right? Come on.
Yeah. I would say much of phony claims are involved whenever there's this situation.
Yeah, and I, like I said, it's a difficult topic. I get it.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
don't know about Rwanda. Is that the right? You can't send them back to their own countries?
Well, I getting it out of Rwanda would be quite difficult. I think. I mean, it's an African nation that 10 years ago, or 15 years ago, it was accused of genocide. Um,
So
Now,
why would you choose Rwanda as a place to send them?
well, because it actually has reformed according to our government, and
Oh,
now it's a safe place. Why
would
we
would would Rishi want to go and stay in Rwanda?
would
Rishi want to go and stay in Rwanda?
well,
I don't
don't
think
know
so.
about that.
I don't
Yeah,
think so.
yeah,
Would you, Rishi? Would you want to
yeah.
really? I don't think so.
Although I did know somebody who worked in Rwanda, and they did say that it was a much nicer place now. But then again, is as you know, I spent some considerable time in Nigeria, and what goes on in the bush is quite different to what you see in the headline news. And I mean, in Nigeria, for instance, one of the things we had to watch out for was being hauled over by the police on the roadside because it could just be there are terrorists who had stolen uniforms from a nearby depot and just dressed up as policemen and hauled you over.
Terrible.
And in fact, I mean, journalists, we don't talk too much about the narrow escapes we had, but we were coming down in very rural Nigeria. We had a driver who was from that region, and we came around the corner of the road, and there was a barrier with some policemen there, and my African colleague looked at the driver, and all they did was and he ran it. He just went right through it.
Wow.
In other words, I recognize that this isn't legit. Get us out of here.
Ooh. Wow. So scary.
Yeah, it puts your
Yeah.
heart in your mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Now,
anyway,
um, the Super Bowl is coming up pretty soon, is it not?
um, I suppose yes.
Yeah, I mean, the
Um,
reason that I ask about that is not that I intend that we should discuss sports particularly, but somebody was debating the other day and saying, you know, huge amounts of money that is spent just for a sort of a 30-second spot in the Super Bowl.
yes.
I'm sort of gobsmacked by the way that this money is spent. But in fact, advertising is still a very, very big industry in the States, isn't it?
Well, for this particular event, yes, because it's something that, if you're going to watch the Super Bowl, you're going to go to Super Bowl parties, you're watching that you want to see the commercials because they've just become, they're fun, they're very creative, they're funny. And so people will sometimes just watch the Super Bowl for the halftime show and the commercials. So that's why it's such a prized
Ah,
um,
right.
30 seconds for a
Yeah.
corporation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only reason. It's like, oh, there's a commercial. And usually it's the opposite. Okay, there's a commercial. I'm going to go take a break. Here, it's like, okay, they're playing. Okay, I'm going to go take a break. And then, oh, commercial's coming in. Oh, we got to check it out, right? So it flips. It flips during the Super Bowl. And then the halftime show is usually, I don't know. I've over the years, to me, it's just a party. I used to actually cover football when I was with the Associated Press. I used to help out, and I would do some stories on the Kansas City Chiefs. So, which of course has been in the news lately because I think Taylor Swift and she's got a boyfriend on Kansas City Chiefs, and So yeah, that's the, and then of course there's the very famous food that you have during the Super Bowl, which is the very, very long Subway sandwich. Long, huge, long, like I don't know, 3 feet long piece of bread, cut in half. The hero sandwich with all the meats or whatever it is you're going to have in there. So that's what people are waiting for. The hero, the big, huge hero sandwich.
Now, I can claim to be a little bit of American history because I saw the first Super Bowl.
Oh, and what was that like? Who were the teams?
Well, it was interesting in as much as uh, everybody got excited about it because it was the first one, and the betting was, will this continue? Because in those days, the two different leagues were very, very competitive, and nobody thought that they would really last cooperating to have their best teams play each other in this manufactured match. But of course, it just went from strength to strength to strength. Whereas now
Wow.
it's a huge institution.
Yes.
It's a
Yes.
huge institution here, by the way. I mean, people watch it here. You'll have
Wow.
parties and so on.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? You have Super Bowl parties there?
Yes. It is.
Wow. Wow.
Uh,
I didn't
uh,
know there was I didn't know there was that much interest in American football.
Sorry.
We show it here in the pub.
Declan says they show it here in the pub.
Wow, that's exciting. That's
Another reason for
amazing.
me to come and have another pint here.
Yes, absolutely. Although it will be so the Super Bowl runs till probably about 11 p.m. here. 10,
Uh,
11 p.m., right? That's
uh,
going to be very, very early for all of you,
yes, I mean it's
unless you rebroadcast it, which
always an
wouldn't be quite so
odd
fun.
time, uh, but there are quite a few. I mean, you know that the one of the leagues has plays one of its games here in London. Um, you
That's
know,
right. There's been interest in American football there. Yes.
oh yeah, I mean Wembley Stadium or whichever stadium they played in is filled, and you're talking about
Wow.
70 or 80,000 people. So yes, it's got a following, all right.
Wow.
I mean,
Interesting.
it'll never outdo football, soccer, but nonetheless, it's quite popular.
Hmm.
It's quite popular.
It's interesting here. There's been so I guess maybe it's been about 3 or 4 years ago, maybe before, there was a big concern with those who are playing football and the head injuries and the brain injuries that occur. And so it's made a lot of parents be very hesitant to allow their young men to get into that
Yeah,
sport. And I hear it all the time. I hear it from my friends who have sons. Oh, I don't want them to play football. I don't want them to play football because it. I mean, I actually used to date somebody from the Dallas Cowboys, and he was a mess. He was truly a mess. He had a lot of pain, a lot of headaches afterwards. He retired um, and got into alcoholism. So
yeah,
it
yeah,
can create a lot of havoc to the players. It really can, because you're constantly being hit in the head and hitting very
yeah,
hard,
yeah.
constantly getting concussions over the course of your
Yeah.
life, of your career. Can't be
Strangely
good.
enough, there is a similar concern about English rugby. The professional players have sort of raised concerns that in later life after they retired, they get a lot of illnesses and so on as a result
Mhm.
of their heads being banged. And of course, we don't wear any protection.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
it's skull on skull.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I guess we don't think about it because we want to be entertained,
Yes.
right? So we don't think about the human cost of these things.
No, uh,
So,
very true. And in some ways, of course, is public pressure. The people who sit in the stands and don't have to have their heads banged is uh, they want it. They want this entertainment.
Right. Yeah.
Actually, the first time that I saw the Super Bowl here in Britain was when I was in Northern Ireland, and there was an American, very popular American, called Peter Ciccarino, who had a bar named, aptly enough, Ciccarinos, and he brought one of these great big screens, and he brought it to my house, and we had a party. And I
Wow.
hadn't really followed the game too much, but when I was first in Canada, I used to watch on a Sunday, the Sunday match. Meanwhile, back at the ranch was the advertisement. But the San Francisco 49ers, I was always very fond of because they were always losing. And then I lost track of it, and I said to Peter, "Who's playing in the Super Bowl?" He said, "San Francisco 49ers." I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Well, I must confess, I'm a bit more into baseball than I am into football. My father was a huge, he was a huge Mets fan, but they were always losing. So,
Yes, I
you know,
know.
he wasn't very loyal. So he switched his hat to a Yankees cap. So I still have his Yankees caps. So yeah, and what's funny is that I I recently, like in the summer, I wore the cap at one point, and apparently it's kind of been taken over by gangs as a symbol. I'm like, really, guys? Why would you do that? I'm gonna keep wearing. I don't care. Look like I'm in a gang. The thing is, it
no,
can't be
no.
the color red.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's interesting because I when I was a teacher, and I would teach teenagers, and some of them were gang members, and there was one instance where, for some reason, they figured little old me should be called into some kind of an altercation between a teacher and a student, because I was very in well with the students. They would be part of my production crew in the musicals, and so they called me, "Oh, Miss Winton, please go to the math room." I go to the math room, and apparently the teacher had taken off the student's red Yankees cap. And I assessed the situation as actually quite dire, because you do that, and especially if you don't know the students and they don't respect you, they will try to hurt you. They will physically hurt you. So I literally had to practically drag the student out into the hallway because I didn't want to see him get arrested. And I took the cap for the rest of the day. I said, at the end of the day, you can come and get your cap back. But until then, I'm wearing it. Okay, Miss Winton, okay. You can wear it. Nobody else. But it better not have lice, okay? So yeah, I loved my students. I truly loved them, and they knew it, which is why they allowed me to wear their cap. But anyway,
Now, it's strange that your father should be a Met fan, because I was a Met fan as well. Casey
oh
Stengel, as I recall, was their manager, and the only time I've been to a professional football match is I went and watched the Mets play the Canadian team, the Expos, and the thing that impressed me enormously is their ballpark is in the flight path of an airport.
yeah, it's
And
fascinating.
here they were concentrating on playing this match with jets going over, howling, their engines howling. Didn't make any difference.
Yeah, that it's still in that vicinity. They have a new Mets have a new stadium, but yeah, it's still in that area, the general area, because it's LaGuardia Airport, JFK Airport. That's around where they are. So yeah, because they're in Queens, and that area where the Yankees are in the Bronx. So they don't get the flight path there. So yeah,
I think that baseball is quite an interesting game, actually, and I will always watch a feature film I get really quite carried away with it. And there is one where they, they play a very popular tune. Something boy, is it? A
I only know.
dream boy or something. And there's always a broken down old hack who
remembers those things.
It's his moment of glory. It's always great stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Melissa, it's 11:15, and there's no sign of Suzanne, so I think she must have slept in.
Okay.
Mark maybe wasn't in evidence, so I'm going to have to call it a 3-line whip and get them back on track.
Okay, very good. It's been lovely speaking to you.
Yes, but I've been putting up little profiles of all of you on this local app called Nextdoor, and it's astonishing because people are reading about you, and it tells you how many. And in some instances, you've had 1,500 to 2,000 people reading about you. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't say that they all tune into to Mirador, not all of them, but it just shows you the interest that we're garnering.
Very
So
nice.
I'm going to have to tell Suzanne that she can't take unauthorized holidays.
Well, it's been lovely speaking with you, Keith. And
always is, and it's a wonderful way to end a Friday, end our broadcast week, to have you on and to chat. You lead a fascinating life. You have a fascinating family,
really,
but you also have a very interesting take on modern politics and modern social attitudes and so on and so forth. So you're a very interesting lady, as they say.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm usually actually quite ignorant when it comes to current events lately because I've been tuning more out of the news.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I got to cleanse the mind, right?
In that case, yes.
Very unique perspective of knowing nothing. Anyway,
see you next week.
Bye.
Bye, Melissa.
Bye.
Melissa Conti, and a good chat. But we missed two of our favourites and regulars, and we'll find out. Of course, it's not easy to coordinate international broadcasts, and we do it all on our own. We don't have a big team doing it, so sometimes things go awry, and you'll have to forgive us for that. But nonetheless, we are going to persevere because we are pleasing, casual, and not at all usual type of broadcast. Quirky is the word that's being used. Quirky we are, and quirky we shall remain. We'll see you Monday morning, bright and early, for another session of Mirador Television, and have a good weekend. It's cold, but it's going to warm up just a little, so you can enjoy going outside a bit more than we have this week. Toodle-pip. From Lewis in the Black Horse Pub.